All right, everybody, Brian Engelman, welcome back. This is the Unhappy Hour here on the TNAM network. Because the news always matters, this is the new American media because the old American media has failed us. This is a sports show. Of course, sports these days are half politics, and we're not going to be able to do a show about LeBron James and All-Star Weekend without at least mentioning
Thank
Laura
God.
Ingram. Yes, of course.
Not even want about it.
And we're bringing in Zak Baris. Zak is our resident NBA analyst who's been with us for about 7 years now. If you're watching on this camera, you're on Facebook Live. Thank you very much for watching. Go ahead and leave your comments below, and we will try to answer them. I will pose the questions to Zak as appropriate, if possible. Sorry, I'm trying to clean the screen here on my cell phone. It looks a little fuzzy, and hang on one second. Let's get that adjusted. Fun times. And then if you're watching on this screen, it's after the fact. It's probably on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. So go ahead and click subscribe to that. So let's kind of start with this whole All-Star weekend. I guess we could work our way backwards from the realm of important matters. LeBron James was the captain, and it was a totally different format. Talk about the format change, how it played out, what you liked, what you didn't like. Should they keep it? Should they tweak it? Let's start there, Zak.
I thought it was really cool, actually, to tell you the truth. I think we needed a switch up just because it's something different for a change. And I think last night's All-Star was the first time you've ever seen a team play defense ever. You know, to think though, when you put players on the floor, I mean, don't forget. Let's say the Cavaliers give over 140 points in a game this season on multiple occasions. To see an All-Star game without 170 points is kind of nice. But there's actually even don't forget, these are the best shooters in the NBA playing. These are not some scrubs.
Right. Right. Yeah, I mean everybody can get the ball in the hoop. That's for darn sure. But there was a little bit of rim protection. There was definite defense. I can't stop thinking about trapping Steph Curry in the corner on that last series.
I think, and Kevin Durant, I thought it was pretty cool. It was
Yeah.
nice to see it change. You didn't see all four Warriors on the same team. It was pretty cool to see something like that, just to see the mix and matchup. I thought it was pretty cool. I thought it was cool that LeBron had Durant on his team, that he had Kyrie on his team. And getting into that, I thought it was cool. Larry Nance should have won the dunk contest, but he didn't. I thought it was so cool that he was, literally emulating his father's dunk from Phoenix, 34 years ago. I thought that was really cool.
Mm-hmm.
There was just some stuff, that I liked about the All-Star game. I thought it was a good All-Star weekend. And to look at it and basically capitalize off of that, say, looking into the forecast for the second half of the season is going to be very, very interesting. Boston's sputtering right now. The Cavaliers have been, I think they've won 3 or 4 in a row now. They've won 2-0. They're 2-0 with the new guys. They're starting to really turn it on. Larry Nance has been the puzzle, the piece that fits to the puzzle all along. A guy like LeBron's been looking for, essentially a better version of what Tristan kind of used to be. He dominated on the glass the other night. He does everything so fundamentally well. He can guard the perimeter. He reminds me a little bit different version of Tristan Thompson when he was healthy. And that's not, I don't want to call this Kardashian curse or anything. Tristan's had a lot of miles on him in the last couple of years. He's had an awful lot of miles in the last couple of years. Don't forget, the guy played 82 games his first 4 years in the league.
Of course,
year. Yeah. And there's a lot of wear and tear on the body when you're getting banged around down by the basket. So definitely it's not always the easiest thing to do is play like that. So, it's not the easiest style to play in. Tristan deserves credit where credit's due. Hopefully this is able to ease up his minutes and get healthy for the playoffs. It also gives the Cavaliers more dimensional lineups. So you can go, having a guy like Clarkson who can shoot, having a guy like George Hill and Rodney Hood who can all shoot the best. And don't forget, the Cavaliers took away, a 36-year-old, a bunch of guys who are aging, or a bunch of useless players on the roster like Iman Shumpert at this point, who no longer really served any purpose or any quality on the roster, and getting rid of it for young guys who can run the floor. I mean, you saw how fast the Cavs were in Oklahoma City and Boston. I mean, they dominated both ends of the floor.
Right.
They're sitting there, they're playing defense. I mean, they were dominating up until the end of the fourth quarter when they started getting some points out because the starters were out. But it was impressive. I mean, I got to tell you, they haven't looked like that since the playoffs 2 years ago.
Let me ask you a question. Getting back to Larry Nance Jr. And I will get to people like Michael Nemeth in the Unhappy Hour Sports Show group. It's a private group. Make sure that you link up with it and request to join. It's called the Unhappy Hour Sports Show, a support group. He's saying that players seem like they actually wanted to win the game, and that's refreshing. Talking about the All-Star game, yes, I agree. But back to Larry Nance Jr. When you say he's kind of like a different version of Tristan Thompson. In what ways would you also compare him to the difference Timofey Mozgov made?
It's just, you're getting a guy who's big, who can roll with the floor and move with the ball, which is nice. And then, and Mozgov was fundamentally sound his first year in Cleveland. His second year, not so much when he got pulled through the rotation. But you really saw what a difference having a guy like that made. He was pretty athletic his first year. He played good defense. The one thing Larry Nance is very good around the rim. He's an excellent rebounder. He's one of the best. He sets amazing screens. He's great at the top of the key. He's not going to really sit there and take threes, but you don't need him to. He's a great inside presence, and he's got these huge hands. Massive sized hands, which makes him such an amazing dunker. He's a great rebounder. And, a guy like that is not going to show a ton of talent when he's around, guys who aren't playmakers like L.A. really lacked. But when you're around guys in Cleveland, like LeBron and Kevin Love, and you're around guys, like Rodney Hood, he had Clarkson in L.A., but you don't want Clarkson as your primary playmaker on the floor. You want to have a guy like LeBron out there because it eases up so many shots for everything else. And you realize LeBron is better sometimes without these superstars in the lineup because not everybody's calling for the ball.
Fair, yeah.
It kind of reminds you of the days when the Cavaliers won 60 games against, won 66 and then 61. However, they were an old roster and they didn't do well in the playoffs. This team is much younger. I fully expect this team to brace through UC, and I don't think Toronto's going to be easy. But, I see them being much better once they get, once they get these guys back and once they get Love back and they're healthy and they all get, they all adjust to the roster.
Well, I want to get to Kevin Love, but I want to do that in a minute. I want to stay on the All-Star game for just a few more here. It would have been nice to see Kevin Love play in this game. However, it was not in the cards. Do you think that LeBron was playing harder because it was actually called Team LeBron? And do you think he felt like a different ownership role having selected the team? Do you think that played a difference? And did you find it weird that Steph Curry was eating popcorn when LeBron was hustling? What do you make of that?
I don't think it makes anything. I just think it's the All-Star game. I think LeBron may have been playing harder since it's his team, but I thought it was really cool that they gave him the opportunity to do that. It was unique, and I think it was the best All-Star game we've seen in years. It's the first one I actually paid some attention to.
Right.
I've been to All-Star Weekend before, and I've been to the game, and I don't pay attention. I don't care. It's just like an open shooting contest. It's like these stars are going to make shots anywhere. There's some cool dunks and everything, but you actually saw with that with Giannis block last night. I thought it was pretty awesome to see that kind of thing. You don't normally see that in an All-Star game.
Right. Yeah, I thought it was really good. We were watching it. There were a few minutes left. The team Steph was up by 13 points. Of course, they blew a 13-point lead, so you can make your Warriors jokes about that one. But
1-3 and then 3-1.
Exactly. Steph blew a 13-point lead. But it was interesting because it was coming down to the wire, and I had no doubt that we were going to get back into that game. I just had this feeling that it was about to turn around, and it was defensive intensity, and they did it. Would you say it's one of the more interesting All-Star games you've ever seen?
Hold on one second.
Sure thing. I'll stall for a second until Zach comes back.
Yeah, they screwed the thing.
And so go ahead and make sure you're following Zach on Twitter. He's at ZBaris. That's ZBaris. And our Instagram page is instagram.com/TheUnhappyHour, which is different from our Instagram page of TheNewAmericanMedia. We have different pages for different stuff. We're trying to give you only sports on our certain Instagram page where it's just The Unhappy Hour, and then we give you more of the political stuff and all the crossover stuff on The New American Media. So, all right, Zach, we got you back?
Yeah, I'm back.
Okay. Well, I was gonna say, is this one of the most entertaining, most interesting All-Star games you've ever seen?
Yeah, it definitely was.
Yeah, I really liked it. Talk about the dunk contest now. Spin away from the game just a little bit. You thought Larry Nance was robbed? I thought Larry Nance had the best dunk of all the dunks. So in that respect, I thought he got robbed.
I'm probably a little biased. Even if he played for the Lakers, I would have been a little biased just because, his dad was a Cavalier, and now it's like he's a Cavalier.
Right.
So, I mean, again, I'm always a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. I can be a little bit biased at times. I mean, I know I am. I think a few years ago when you used to have me on the show when I was still, working in the business, I was not working for the Cavaliers. I don't think I was really biased at all. But obviously things have changed. I'm more of a fan now. Granted, I'm still very piped into what's going on, but I'm more of a fan now than I was 4 years ago. 4 years ago, 5 years ago, I was in the business, and I definitely, it was my day to day. I was, I put in 14, 15 hours a day when I had to, and it was, it was a totally different story then.
Right.
So getting back to it though, I think that the Cavaliers, I think right now I think the dunk contest was great. I think All-Star Weekend was awesome. But I don't want to focus a ton on that just because it's it's a meaningless exhibition game.
Yeah, and that's fair. That's fair. I mean, what a lot of people are going to want to talk about is kind of like Michael Nemeth. He was posting here in the group in the Facebook Live page. If you have questions, type them in. He was saying. He was wanting to know, how is Kyle Korver going to fit into the rotation the rest of the season? It seems like his minutes have dropped off the past couple games.
There's going to be nights when you don't see him playing much. He'll get his minutes when he needs to, but don't forget, you're talking about a 36-year-old shooting guard. He's not going to be getting as many minutes. He's not going to be getting as many minutes just because based on they've got the young guys now. That play the same position as him, and they're playing a faster pace of basketball. You'll see Korver get piped back into the offense, but I think it might take a little while. First of all, you got to get these rotation pieces set. And I think Osman now, he's coming in and he's got LeBron as the starting power forward. I think at some point you might see, when Love comes back, if Love is the starting center, and you literally might see Larry Nance as the starting power forward and LeBron at the three. But as long as Osman plays well for the next couple of weeks, you'll see Steady there, and anything Steady gives you is a huge bonus because don't forget, he was barely playing earlier this year.
Yeah, he hadn't been making too much of a contribution until lately. Remind us again where Seti came from.
So he came from Macedonia, not Ohio. Making that very clear, not Ohio, different Macedonia. But he's very, very energetic. He plays defense when he's on the floor, and he's very athletic for a 21, 22-year-old kid. And now you're looking at these guys now. The majority of the roster is no longer above the age of 35. The Dwayne Wades are gone. Derrick Rose was a 40-year-old to 29-year-old body. You've gotten rid of all those pieces. The only old piece you really have, the oldest piece on the roster is LeBron and Korver now. That's it.
Wow. That's
and
so...
And JR's like 32.
It's so strange to think about. But with Osman, we drafted him or we traded for him? That's what I'm trying to remember.
No, we drafted him. So originally, we had traded the pick. Well, technically Minnesota took him. We took Tyus Jones. Cavs took Tyus Jones.
Okay.
And the Cavaliers originally traded Tyus Jones for the Seti Osman pick. So technically Minnesota drafted him, but technically the Cavs did. His rights were traded on draft night.
Gotcha.
And he was a stash over. So, that's what's so nice about the Cavs. They just got a bunch of young pieces. Don't forget, this team's only going to get younger next year when you have that Brooklyn pick, which is looking, Brooklyn's lost, 10 of 11 now? They've been getting crushed every night. They're finally, playing like their schedule would indicate. They're playing way over their heads at the beginning of the season. But it happens with a lot of young teams at the beginning of the season. They start to fade out because they're not used to a long 82-game schedule.
Right.
And Brooklyn's had a lot of injuries this year, too. So you look at them, and, if that pick somehow turns into one or two, we'll do a draft show soon, too. As it gets closer, I just think a mock draft right now is insane to do because, all these, there's like 6 teams all in line within one game of each other, 7 teams. All within about one game of each other.
Well, see, the interesting part is that the Nets are the only of those teams that will not be intentionally tanking. Well, what are your thoughts on tanking and what we're about to see this season?
Here's the thing. The Nets have no reason to tank. They want to, the Nets, I think, have done a very good job stockpiling young assets, getting guys like D'Angelo Russell and taking on some bad contracts for it. Taking on a guy like D'Angelo Russell to get them young talent, to get, a guy like Julio Okafor who's not panning out, but he's not really any good. I mean, he's regressed terribly since he came in the league. I've never really developed, and it's actually regressed completely since he came into the league. So, but still, they're taking chances on these guys, that have high potential that were taken at the top of the draft. And it's like LA has given up now D'Angelo Russell, Jordan Clarkson, and they've given up on, and they've given up on, what's his name, too? They gave up on Larry Nance. They gave up, so Larry Nance, Jordan Clarkson, and they gave up on D'Angelo Russell, all for the possibility to sign LeBron, which is no guarantee, and Paul George. So if they do that and they don't get either of them, it's going to look pretty bad for Magic Johnson if they don't. Now, if they do, then it's a whole other story. But here's the thing, the Lakers aren't sitting there flush with young talent.
Yeah, they have Lonzo Ball. They got a couple pieces. Couple.
Yeah, but a couple's not. Yeah, but who are you talking about? Lonzo Ball, Brandon Ingram, and Julius Randle, or Kyle Kuzma.
Kuzma.
They didn't pick up Randle's option for next year, so so it's really Kuzma. It's really Kuzma, Ball, and Brandon Ingram, and you compare that to the Cavs, where the Cavaliers. I'm just saying, you can take a look at the rosters, and the Cavaliers go, okay, we have Kevin Love as a piece. Kevin Love is a stronger piece than anybody on that roster right now. Because he's already an all-star. Kuzma could be an all-star, but he's more likely, if he's going to be, 3 years away. Same with Lonzo Ball, 2 to 3 years away. When LeBron will be 35, 36. Here's another thing, too. The Cavaliers now have Rodney Hood, Larry Nance. They've got, George Hill is not too old. The Cavaliers have a lot of pieces in place. They don't have to fill it out with minimum guys on the roster. They still have the mid-level to use in the offseason. And they have a top 5 pick coming from Brooklyn.
Oh man, that's interesting. I wonder if we're gonna keep that pick or if we're gonna trade the pick.
I tend to think they will use it unless they use it to move a contract. Like, here's another thing the Cavaliers could do, and this is what I'm saying. Don't be surprised. Don't be surprised to see a move, and I'm not saying for Anthony Davis, but a player of Anthony Davis's caliber on draft day, where the Cavaliers move that pick, for a guy like move that pick and Kevin Love for a guy like Anthony Davis, who signed long term.
Huh.
Think about that one for a minute. But I think the Cavaliers are more likely to go into it with a player, and go and draft someone, even keeping LeBron. I still think, or they'll pull an Andrew Wiggins move and trade for a young superstar who's like 26, like they did when they got Kevin Love.
Right.
That's the thing. Like, don't forget, Andrew Wiggins has still never been an all-star.
Yeah, we were very high on him in the beginning, but
not even sniffing an all-star, but he hasn't been that good. Not that good this season.
Yeah.
He's very one-dimensional. All he can do is score. He doesn't rebound. He doesn't pass the basketball. He doesn't really do anything. So in looking at it, if I'm Cleveland, I think Cleveland clearly won the Love trade. I don't even think it's a question at this point. The Cavaliers have a championship. Minnesota doesn't have a cornerstone franchise player.
Hey, let me get back to Los Angeles really quick because it looks like we have somebody calling in. This is LA Sports Radio Show Talk. LA Sports Talk Show. Wait, what the heck is your name? LA Sports Radio guy. He goes Carlos. What do I call you, man? LA Sports Show Talk Radio guy. I'm confusing your name here, but how you been, man?
LA Sports Talk Radio guy.
LA Sports Talk Radio guy. Thank you. I was having a moment. You want to call in? You were kind of. I was curious. What did you think about the All-Star festivities in your hometown?
It's like awesome, man. Watching all the future Lakers playing in that game.
Yeah, there were a ton of Lakers and Clippers playing in that game, weren't there?
Oh, tons, man. You had guys like LeBron who's gonna be here next year. Kyrie Irving. Kevin Love was on the bench. But you got other guys like Paul George, Russell Westbrook.
All right, so is that?
They'll be here next year.
So that's the prediction that Magic Johnson is going to bring you Russell Westbrook and LeBron James.
Has it out that Magic Johnson will be coming back too.
Will he play point guard this time, or probably playing point guard? So you really think you think you guys really have a shot to land all these free agents, huh? Yeah, I don't know. Here's the thing. Watching Kyrie playing with LeBron, I'm wondering if Kyrie's going to come back to the Cavs. Did you think about that one?
Kyrie. No, Kyrie only plays for the Lakers.
Only the Lakers. Got it. So he's out the door on the Celtics. Russell Westbrook, you think that's a done deal? And Paul George, they're both coming?
DC.
Excellent. Well, anyway, hey, I just wanted to take your call. Thank you so much for joining us again. I appreciate it. LA Sports Talk Radio. LA Sports Radio guy. I'm screwing up your name so much. It's been so long since I talked to you. What can I say? Zach, Zach, if you were a betting man, thank you, LA Radio guy. Realistically, what do you think is going to happen with the Lakers? And obviously, we don't know for sure. But if you were a betting man, what do you think is going to happen?
So here's the thing. I think it's all going to, here's the thing. I think they really hurt their chances in 2018 if they don't land Paul George, and I'll tell you why. I think the first domino falls with LeBron, and I think he waits. But here's the problem now. You've got DeMarcus Cousins now, who's coming up with torn ACL.
Right.
I don't know if any team's willing to give him a 4 or 5 year deal. To give a big man that's 7 feet coming off that kind of injury is very dangerous.
It is, but someone will do it.
I think DeMarcus Cousins now re-ups in New Orleans. This is my prediction.
Okay.
If Oklahoma City gets bounced early in the playoffs, I bet Paul George goes to LA. Would it shock me to see LeBron sign there? No, but I don't see it being likely. I think there are other fits that are better for LeBron than the LA Lakers. I think Cleveland's his best fit personally. The Rockets have to give up a lot in order to get him. But I think, you have to give up Eric Gordon, Clint Capella, Ryan Anderson. There's a lot of pieces that they'd have to move in order to get him. So I think it'd be tough strategically to do it. I think he'd sign in San Antonio, although I don't see it being likely. But it could happen. You never know.
Yeah.
Or even going to Philadelphia, which I don't see as likely. I think people are totally underestimating the Spurs just because of how high he talks about Greg Popovich and always wanting to play for him. Playing alongside Kawhi Leonard would be pretty cool. I mean, granted, I don't want to see that happen. I want him to stay in Cleveland.
Ditto.
But I think Cleveland. I was on your show a couple days before the trade deadline. I said they had no chance of keeping LeBron. I told you that.
It was looking really rough.
It was. And I literally said on the show, I said, unless Kobe's able to pull something out of his ass, then he's out. He's gone. And what do you know? He pulled something out of his ass on the trade deadline day and worked the hell of the deadline day to get this team younger and faster and more athletic, and not just being a bunch of old guys anymore. So I think he did a great job there. I
do too. Pretty impressed. You don't just dismantle the Celtics and the Thunder with brand new teammates. That's not a likely thing to happen.
They only had 2 of the 6 best teams in the NBA, and they destroyed them.
Dismantled.
They literally destroyed them. Both on the road. These weren't games at home.
Right. Enormous wins, showing enormous potential on this team. Yes, we did a show right before the trade deadline, and you were really giving it to Dan Gilbert, and we were pretty down in the dumps. I think everybody was.
Brian, I didn't even want to turn on the TV watching those games, and when I tuned in the entire Celtics game, watched the entire game, and I was in San Diego watching that entire game, and I did the same thing with the Thunder game. I was in San Diego for both of those games, and I went back to the hotel room to go tune in, for both of those games. I was not going to miss those, and I was just so impressed with their style of play, how they looked. And, you saw guys, it looked like, LeBron just looked like, rejuvenated. He looked like he cared again. And I'm not saying LeBron never cared. I think it was just starting to get frustrating because where the hell did J.R. Smith come from in those games? He looked unbelievable. JR's looked terrible all season. You're like saying, how the hell is this guy going to even be on the roster the next couple of years?
Well, you remember what happened?
Like the last 2 games.
Good.
You look at these last 2 games and they're just like, where the hell did that come from?
Well, I think where it came from was the addition by subtraction. When Dwayne Wade came in, remember that story was that he was going to start, and then JR was saying, he's not going to stay. And then there was that, it's tough to remember back to that, but that was like a little bit of an internal tug of war right when that happened. Talk to me for a second about the addition by subtraction. What were the negatives for all of the big-time players that we lost? I'm talking Crowder, Thomas, Wade, and...
Crowder, here's the thing. You might see Thomas, succeed in another system, but it was not happening in Cleveland. He wasn't going to succeed here. He's a ball-dominant point guard, and his game just doesn't translate to Cleveland. It just didn't. With having a guy like LeBron here, Thomas should have been on the bench running the second unit. But he just wasn't efficient. And defensively, even though he looked good, they still gave, 130 points to the Mavericks?
Sure. And they're a terrible team.
Mm-hmm. Isaiah's a great sixth man. He's not someone who should be, here's the thing. If he's your number one player, you're not getting very far in the playoffs. We've witnessed it the last 2 years.
Right. Yeah,
However, if he's your sixth man coming off the bench, and he's not, he might be a good fit on the Lakers. He might be good at the mid-level there for 1 year.
Yeah, it'll be curious. He came over to the Lakers and got immediately kicked out with a real ticky-tack thing with Rajon Rondo. Some sort of Celtics feud they had going on. But, you just wonder. All the money that IT's leaving on the table and seeing him not getting along with a lot of, in a lot of circumstances and situations. I wonder what that guy's future is going to be like. Obviously, he didn't do much for us at all. But I'm trying to imagine.
Nobody's backing up a Brinks truck for him.
No, they were almost ready to last year, and calling out Kevin Love. Weird way to try to fit in with the team is to show up and start getting into extracurricular fights unnecessarily. Jay Crowder, was he a malcontent in the locker room too? Have we heard stories about that?
I don't know about that. I just know he just looked terrible. I think he was a real system guy, but although he's looked good with Utah starting out. So, here's the thing. I'm fine if Isaiah Thomas looks like an all-star with the Lakers and Jay Crowder looks like he did in Boston with the Jazz. So be it. I'm okay with it. As long as our guys look good. You're allowed to have win-win trade.
That's true. That's true. Dwayne Wade, do you think him and then Derrick Rose, obviously. Derrick Rose leaving the team and coming back. Have any stories filtered out to you from the locker room about those two? Two Bulls guys and then two Celtics guys. Real cliquey. Have you heard any stories about that?
No, I think Derrick Rose just burned a lot of bridges when he left the team to consider retirement. I think that was really what started out. I think it was really what just did the damage. So other than that, though, Rose didn't look good anyway. So that was the thing. He's a ball-dominant point guard. The Cavaliers cannot have a ball-dominant point guard that looks mid that makes LeBron look great other than a guy like Kyrie Irving. It's like if LeBron played with Russell Westbrook. It'd be too weird.
Right.
LeBron needs a guy who can shoot the ball. He needs a great shooter. Like LeBron and Steph Curry look unbelievable next to each other. And LeBron is not going to the Warriors. He's not going. So
they keep talking about it.
I'll bite off my left hand if he goes to the Warriors. So I can personally guarantee that it's not going to happen, and they need to get rid of Klay Thompson and Draymond Green to make that happen. So it's not happening. So we look at it from here, and I'm not even going to worry about LeBron's free agency because everything is contingent on how far the Cavs go in the playoffs. Cavaliers get bumped in the first round, don't count on being back. Second round, no. But if they make a great run against the Warriors in the final, a great run against the Warriors or the Rockets or whoever they face in the finals, then yeah, if they trounce Kyrie Irving, the Celtics in the East, and DeMar DeRozan and the Raptors, because right now it's looking like they're going to have to play the Celtics in the second round and the Raptors in the championship round in the Eastern Conference Championship, which is not going to be an easy feat, but I think they'd beat them both.
Yeah.
Judging by that, if I'm LeBron right there and I've got a chance, yeah, I'd come back next year. Here's the thing too. The Cavaliers will have a tough time. Don't expect a rookie though to contribute so positively. But expect a trade to be made where they could trade that rookie. As long as LeBron's willing to commit long term, you can go and trade that rookie for a young established star. You do have great young players in the league. Would it be? I wouldn't do it for Devin Booker. I wouldn't trade a top 3 pick for Devin Booker. However, there are other players to look at in the league. That would be readily available.
And when can that start? So the season wraps up in June, and then the draft happens.
Yeah, the draft is right after. The draft is like 10 days after the season wraps up.
Jeez. And then
free agency is a week and a half later.
Yeah, it's fast and furious. It never stops. So then, I guess as soon as the regular. Good.
Yeah. No, I don't. No, you go.
So right after the season starts, after the regular season ends, the playoffs end. Are you then able to trade your draft picks immediately, or then there's a window and then a new deadline?
No, I think you have to wait. I'm not sure if you have to wait 30 days to trade them. I'm not. I know free agents you have to wait. But I don't know. I'm trying to think how the rule is about trading draft picks. I know you can trade them pretty close after. I mean, they traded Wiggins about after the summer league. I think a month after. So.
Okay. Yeah, I remember they had to wait. They kind of came to agreement on the terms, and they had to wait a couple weeks or something.
Yeah. I think if they're not traded on draft picks, then you need to. Yeah, you can agree on the terms, but the deal isn't done for like 30 days.
Right.
I fully expect the Cavaliers, if they make a strong run going to the finals, to expect that pick to be traded. Let's number 1 overall or number 2. They're landing a guy like DeAndre Ayton from Arizona who can contribute right away. Who can be that centerpiece. And help ease into the future of the LeBron era, with also contributing at the same time. Or the Cavaliers go out and they make a move for, I'm not, the Celtics obviously wouldn't do it, but I'm saying for the type of player, a Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown type player, or Joel Embiid type player. Those players will not be available. I'm making that very clear now, which is why I said a guy like Devin Booker, or maybe, Donovan Mitchell won't be available from Utah. I'm just throwing out young names. If the Cavaliers are going to even consider trading that pick, and it's top 3, top 2, number 1, that's what it's going to take in order to get back.
Right.
It would take a Paul George type player in order for the Cavaliers to trade that pick. They're not going to just do it. Do the Cavaliers necessarily need a big 3? I don't know. It all depends on how they do in the playoffs. They might say we don't need a big 3. It could be like Houston have our top 2 guys. With a bunch of really, really good role players like Houston has. So it all depends. Do I think they have enough to beat the Warriors right now? I don't know. I haven't seen enough. It's going to be very hard to take down Golden State. It's going to be hard to take down Houston too. I think those teams. Here's the thing: Golden State's never played a healthy team in the West.
I would have liked that last year.
That's the thing is they've had easy runs in the playoffs. Granted, they dismantled the Cavs last year.
They did. We didn't have much. We couldn't put up much of a fight.
Entirely different team now.
Yeah, they really are. And I'm not worried about Kevin Love reintegrating himself into the team. I watching the All-Star game yesterday with Kyrie, I was just wondering if Kyrie could ever come back to the Cavs. That's not out of the realm of possibility, right?
No, I don't think he will. But let's put it this way: did you ever picture LeBron after the decision coming back to the Cavs? First came back in Cleveland. He was booed so heavily.
I remember that. I was with you though. I had a hunch he was coming back for a while. Maybe not immediately after. Immediately after, he was just public enemy number 1.
But don't forget, we're in year 1 of Kyrie Irving. Kyrie might never win in Boston. He might win. If he doesn't win, he could come back in a year. I mean, you don't know. I mean, I don't want to completely discount. We've seen weirder things happen before. I mean, would you have ever pictured in 2010 that Dwayne Wade would have been on the Cavaliers this year?
Honestly, I always pictured Dwayne Wade coming to the Cavs. I always did.
And there's a chance they sign Chris Bosh next week. Yeah.
Wait, Bosh next week? To where? To the Heat or to here?
Bosh might come to Cleveland next week.
What? Whose roster space would he take?
Getting a guy who hasn't played in about 2 years now on the court is going to be difficult. But obviously, the guy still has skill. He's not old.
Right. Huh? I heard that he might come back, but I thought they were talking about next year. They're talking about next week.
Next week.
To the Cavs.
The Warriors are mentioned as a team. The Raptors are mentioned. The Celtics are mentioned. The Celtics are not mentioned. There's a few other teams mentioned. Houston. So he wants to play for a contender.
You would like him to jump on the team, right?
I wouldn't mind. I don't know where he fits, but I would like him. I mean, it's better to have another body here. I mean, I don't think you need to play him 25, 30 minutes a night. I mean, you can give him 8 to 12 minutes a night, and he can play really high-quality basketball. Yeah, it'd be a great fit. But I don't know what he has left in the tank at this point because he hasn't played in so long. I don't know what kind of shape he's in. I haven't seen his workouts. Right.
All right, well, good. That's something interesting to keep our eyes on. When does the games start? Do they start tomorrow, or do you still have another day off?
I don't think they start until Thursday.
Okay, a couple days then. So that gives us something to look forward to next week.
Guys, let them rest. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good idea. I mean, you get the 24 best players in the league, and don't burn them out. Give them a second to catch their breath. They asked a lot out of them over the weekend. So, Okay, cool. Well, then I'll keep my eyes peeled on the Chris Bosh situation, and I kind of mentioned
Yeah,
this.
I'm available if you want to. Yeah, and if you want to do any more, just let me know. I'm around.
Absolutely, and maybe we could wrap it up on this, and I don't know how far you feel like discussing it, but it was a big story over the weekend. LeBron, who has called the president of the United States a bum, and said he doesn't give an F about the American people, and then one of the commentators on Fox told him to shut up and dribble.
Here's
Just
the thing, and here's the thing though, and I'm just going to say this: whether you support the president or not, LeBron does have his right to comment. As he is a civilian, he's an American. He has the right to comment on the president and say what he wants. Just like people are allowed to talk shit on Obama, they're allowed to talk shit on Trump too. It happens, and if he doesn't support him, he's allowed to say what he wants. I think the shut up and dribble comment was honestly, I thought it was a poor comment and choice by her. Again, because again, I'm just saying, what gives her more of a right to talk about it than LeBron? That's the thing. Each of them, I'm not saying what he said was justified. I'm not saying it isn't. But all I'm saying is everybody is able to voice their opinion whether you agree with it or not.
And so the commentator, kind of didn't like LeBron's take, using terrible grammar, dropping F-bombs, and really just not adding too much to the conversation, except basically, taking a page out of the Kanye West playbook when he said George Bush does not care about black people. It was just a very generic throwaway comment. I found it very interesting that Chris Rock, the NBA was out there pushing, equality and diversity and in the pregame stuff, really hyping this up. And they had Chris Rock as one of the judges in the dunk contest, and it's like, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but I watched the new Chris Rock special, Tambourine, on Netflix. I don't know if you had a chance to see it. But the whole first 15 minutes, man, it was really rough. It was really rough. I like comedy. I like rough comedy as well. But in 15 minutes, he started off by basically saying he wanted to see cops shooting and killing more white kids. And he's teaching his daughter to hate and fear anything in his house that's white, because white things are evil. For 15 minutes of this stuff, and it wasn't funny. Number one, it wasn't funny. And so this is the guy that the NBA is propping out there for diversity and for equality and for fairness and for being civil. And then LeBron is out there saying the president doesn't give an F about, so I found it interesting on the backlash against Laura Ingraham. It was almost like people were saying she didn't have the right to her opinion either. So yes, I think anybody in this country, you're allowed to say whatever you want, but if it doesn't play well, it doesn't play well. That's kind of all you're left with. You leave your mark with your comments, and sometimes it lands its mark, and sometimes it falls and fails miserably. I think LeBron's comments were a failure, and I think Laura Ingram's comments were a failure. But that's the beauty of it, I guess. I just, speaking personally from my experience over the past 7 years with the Unhappy Hour, I used to love when politics would jump into the sports realm. I kind of really used to like combining them, but now it's too much.
I think Twitter has basically, politics, in social media, it's just terrible, personally. And I think, and honestly, to tell you the truth, too, I think if the president didn't have his problem with the tweeting, I don't think his support would be as bad as it is. But the problem is he sends out these ridiculous tweets sometimes, and they're just, you have to admit yourself, they're ridiculous.
There's a...
at first people found them funny. A lot of them are just ridiculous.
Yeah, he's the ultimate Twitter troll. He's the troll in chief.
Yeah, but the grammatical errors, not knowing the difference between theirs, they are. I go, this man's our president sometimes. I look at those tweets and I go, you gotta be kidding me.
Fair critique.
It's just too much. He's just not presidential. It's not what the country's used to. That's the thing.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. I just, when I hear Bron kind of bringing himself down to that gutter politics level, and say what you want about the current president, but the one that he was supporting and backing had so many problems with her personally, and well, from every angle with that person. I don't know how you can back that in clear conscience.
Listen. Honestly, South Park put it perfect. You're deciding between a douche and a turd.
Yeah, I know, and that's fair. That's fair. And I, like I said, I used to.
South Park really and you know it.
Yeah, the
Not
only
all,
thing
but most.
only thing worse than a Republican's a Democrat, and I don't trust either of them. I don't like either of them. I don't love either of them.
I honestly, I just vote based on the person. I don't base anything on the party anymore. I used to, and I don't do that anymore. I think a lot has changed for me in the last couple of years. I just, I hate talking politics too. It's one of the great parts of working in sports. You never had to talk politics.
And that's changed though. Hasn't that really changed? That
no. But in the workplace, you do not talk politics. Trust me, because you have the owner supporting one, and you have the player supporting a different person.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like it's changed since I started this show. It never used to be. I would try not to go out of my way to blur the lines, but I feel like ESPN/ABC/Disney, it's the same corporation. I think they've just been cramming political agenda down our throats through the realm of sports, and there's going to be a backlash. People generally want to tune into sports to get distracted from all the crap that's going on, the important stuff, the life and death stuff. We want to be entertained. We want to be inspired. We want to watch great acts of sports. And it's like when you turn it on. I was watching ESPN 710 or listening to it the other day. I mean, it was about 20 minutes straight of something that I felt like was a Rachel Maddow commentary, like one of her opening salvos. It was nonstop gun control, LeBron and Laura Ingram, and I'm just going, what does this have to do with sports? Why is this being pummeled at me? Why am I getting pummeled with this? Why is it being funneled at me?
Yeah, I want to turn on. One of the things I like about listening to, like Ken Carmen in the morning, and these guys in Cleveland, they just don't sit there and talk politics on the show. One of the things I honestly like about watching Mike and Mike, Mike and Golick and Wingos, you don't hear the politics come up. When it gets to regular sports center, it's just politics, and I can't stand it.
Yeah.
Yes. With certain guys, like I don't watch like certain shows like, whatever it is, First Take, because I can't stand Stephen Smith or Max Kellerman. However, I like Golick and Wingo. There are certain people I like on the network. There are certain people I don't. Some certain shows like I think Sports Center 6 was too politicized. Which I didn't like watching. I want to watch sports. I don't want to listen. If I want to watch politics, I'll turn on one of the news stations. I don't want to listen to politics when I'm watching sports. I'm not saying there needs to be total separation, but when I tune in to watch a sports show, I don't want to get hammered with my views on my political opinion. That's not what I tuned in for.
Yeah, and
that's what I'm getting at.
And it's been going on for years. It's about transgender MMA fighters, born a man, beating up on women in the ring. It's Charlotte getting the All-Star game pulled because of transgender bathrooms. It's on and on and on and on down the list. It's just like every time you tune in, it's more of the same political stuff. I know a lot of the listeners, the people following the Unhappy Hour, they get sick of it. I understand. Part of me does too. So I don't know if there's a way I could blur or kind of like split my channel into like TNAM Sports and then TNAM Sports Issues. I don't know if that's the right move or not, but
it might be wise. I personally don't love to tackle sports issues. My job is I personally love to leave the politics out of it. And you know me, Brian. I've been coming on your show for years saying,
yeah,
I don't like talking politics. It's just something I don't feel comfortable doing because nobody agrees on. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, and someone wants to speak out for the president supporting, okay. And if they have their reasons. And if someone wants to speak out against the president, they have their right as well. And that's how I look at it. Granted, no matter who the president is, usually 50% of the population hates them. Think about that. Normally when you have a president, almost about, even in elections, when you saw Romney lose the election to Obama barely won, he had what? 49.8% of the vote, and Romney had 49.4% of the vote, or whatever it was. It's not much of a difference. It's close to 50-50.
Pretty much.
50, 60-some million Americans that didn't vote for either candidate, and that's what I'm getting at. It's not a wipeout, where like Ronald Reagan wiped out, Jimmy Carter in the early 80s. It's not like that, where, he tackled 80% of the vote, and Carter won one state. He won one electoral. That was it. I think he had 2 or 3 electoral votes. That was it. He didn't win anything. Even Californians, notoriously one Democrat, went Republican for Reagan. That's what I'm saying, though. But no matter who the president, now whether it's George W. Bush, whether it's Barack Obama, whether it's Donald Trump, half the population hates whoever the president is.
Yeah, what a fun job that's got to be.
I mean, that's the thing, is that's why I was Donald Trump, one of the things about his tweeting with being a troll and stuff, they didn't support me. Well, of course MSNBC is not going to support you or CNN. They're left-wing based. It's just like right-wing, you're getting the support from him, from Fox News. And it's the same thing. Obama didn't get the support from Fox because it's more of a right-wing winning station. That's the thing. You can't be so thin-skinned about everything, and I think that's Trump's problem. I don't know if he's necessarily fit to be president. Let me just put it like that. I think he's just all over the place sometimes, and he's like a child. He's a 75-year-old child.
Well, the one thing I would have
preferred in place.
Well, the one thing that is going to be constant is that while LeBron James is on the Cleveland Cavaliers, the unhappy hour is going to be at the epicenter of all of this stuff. There's no getting around the arguably the biggest name in all of professional sports.
I can tell you this right now. I'd be absolutely shocked if you saw an NBA team visit the White House.
Any NBA team.
In the next 3 years.
Any of the teams.
I just don't see it happening. Any of the teams.
I was actually thinking.
Yes, I think.
I was thinking about that today.
I think you might get the Eagles to go to the White House, but but here's another thing how I look at it. Rather than turning down a White House invitation, if I had such a huge problem with the president, I would want my opinion voiced. I would love to meet the president and say, "This is why I don't like you."
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think it's the ultimate opportunity. I think it's the ultimate opportunity to get in front of him rather than boycotting it. I think it's the ultimate opportunity to say, "This is why I don't like you. This is why I didn't vote for you." I think it'd be awesome if someone did that and went to the White House and said that to the president. I think it'd be really cool if someone actually did that and stood up and didn't boycott.
Yeah.
I'm saying they might not stand for what he believes, and I totally agree with that. But I think you have a better chance of hearing your opinion voiced to the president why you don't like the job he's doing and get in his face and say something to him. I think it'd be awesome if someone did. And whether you like the athlete or not, or whether you support the president or not, it's still cool to hear someone do that.
Absolutely.
Saying, I have a problem with this policy. I have a problem with their lack thereof gun control. Whatever the issue might be, race in this country, whatever political issue that is pressing on your needs and why you dislike the president, what kind of better platform would you be, would you have to say this to the president himself or the vice president himself at the White House? I think it'd be such a unique opportunity to do it. And it'd be the one time you get your opinion out there to say it to his face.
I would agree with that.
If it were me, and I obviously have an issue with some of the stuff that's gone on. And if it were me though, if I were an athlete, I'd be like, hell yeah, I'd take this invite. I'm going to go and I'm going to shove it in his face.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to go say something.
I had the chance to speak with former Los Angeles Mayor Antonio Villaraigosa. And I told him that I wasn't a big fan of him and his policies. And I had the chance to speak with former CNN commentator / host Piers Morgan. And I got to tell him to his face that I completely disagreed with him on his opinions of our Second Amendment. And that's what you're supposed to do. If you have an opportunity to talk, you talk. Maybe not talking at somebody or talking past somebody, but talking to somebody. You can do it in a civil way. And if they're down, you can actually have a conversation. You might be able to get somewhere with that. I think passing on those opportunities is a fool's errand. I think it's a wasted opportunity. I couldn't agree with you more. So,
what better opportunity to voice your opinion to the president, than saying to him, "This is what I have a problem with."
Yeah, do a pay-per-view, do a sit-down, do a roundtable, turn it into something good. Raise some money for the Boys and Girls Club that way. That would be interesting. Instead of bailing on Cleveland. Hopefully he sticks around. But final question. Back to sports related only. LeBron James only. Seeing what LeBron did, picking this team, how he was able to come back from 13 points down. Obviously it's just an exhibition game. But does this in some way add yet another marker of measurement into the question of who is the greatest basketball player of all time? Is this something that you're going to look back on?
I don't think so. It's not. That's the last thing I'm looking at. When I'm judging, okay, LeBron, won the All-Star MVP. Personally, that's not my, place to sit there and judge.
Right. It's not a Finals MVP.
Cool, but it's nothing that I mean, is that gonna be the difference between him and Michael being the greatest player of all time? No, not in my opinion.
It was pretty cool to watch, though.
I think today it's a lot tougher to win a championship. I think some of the teams are just way more stacked than they used to be.
I think you're right. Well, I mean, with expansion, there are more teams. Like, just mathematically, there are more teams playing than there used to. So, in some ways it dilutes the talent, and in other ways it consolidates the talent. So, the history books are going to rewrite this era. This kind of is the era of LeBron James. It's the LeBron James era. There's not too many ways around it with the super teams and his influence on the league and, society in general, politics and whatnot, current events and everything else. Who knows if we're ever going to get that Space Jam movie or not, but, from hosting Saturday Night Live to being in every other commercial in the Super Bowl, he's an omnipresent political figure, and, he's doing motion pictures now, and I don't think this is going to end. I don't think it's going away anytime soon. I think he's got a ton left in the tank, and I was so happy to just soak in this All-Star game. I thought it was a unique one. It was a special one. I thought it was a fun one. And I'm just really happy this cat's back on my team where I can root for him again. Because I root for laundry. At the end of the day, I root for Cleveland Cavaliers laundry. So it's good to have him back.
That's how I am. I root for. It's always good. I was very happy he returned. It was a very positive light for the city when he returned.
Absolutely.
It created. It's been nothing but. As much as this is what were driving me nuts on the show when people are like, oh, let's trade him. Let's get him away. There's no trade cost. How bad was the basketball here for 4 years without him?
Right.
Our best season, they won 33 games. Okay? You will never replicate having a player like LeBron ever again.
Right.
So appreciate it while you have him. And that's what I always tell people. I don't care if you have him left for 2 years. Enjoy the basketball because this is stuff you're going to be telling your kids about someday, your grandkid. Going, wow, Daddy, you got to see them in, 4, 5, 6 straight finals. Wow. We've got one championship in the last 54 years. And it came from LeBron and the Cavs.
Exactly.
So just remember, when people are talking, people just get greedy. And they want, people get greedy and they go, it's not working, it's not working. Well, we've obviously seen LeBron what it's like when it's working. Look at the last 2 games.
That's very true. That's very true. And
the problem clearly wasn't LeBron. It was the supporting cast. It was not LeBron.
And I guess, in hindsight, too, it looks like Dan Gilbert's willing to go into that luxury tax area and spend the money.
No doubt about that, yeah.
That's kind of, at the end of the day, that's really what you're looking for from an owner, is someone willing to spend the money to make it happen and not take you for granted. So, Dan Gilbert, for all the knocks he's taken, for, for whatever reason, he's proven to be not a tightwad, not a penny pinching owner, someone that's really going to do what it takes to sign him. And I guess final question, Zach, do you think LeBron is going to sign that max deal for maybe $200 million and pushing the Cavs into a $300 million payroll, or do you think he's going to go with maybe a 1 year? If you had to guess,
I couldn't tell you.
Fair enough. Yeah, it would be interesting to see if.
Do a 1 year. Here's the thing: he might decide to do another 1 year deal and then go and max out next year.
Keep pushing it. Bigger max.
Yeah, why not?
Well, why not? Is because he's getting older. At some point, he's going to want to be locked in.
Any team in the league would still give him a max deal.
That's true, and he knows it. So it's going to be fun, man. I'm really looking forward to it. This trade at the trade deadline really re-energized the Cleveland Cavaliers. The All-Star game re-energized a lot of different things for me. I liked seeing Kyrie playing with LeBron again. It still makes me sad that all played out the way that it did, but who knows how it'll play out down the road.
You never know what can happen in the future. Could he be back? Yeah. Is it unlikely? Yes. But you never know.
Never know. As long as it's not in Boston or Los Angeles, I think I'll be all right with it. So, all right. Well, anyway, Zach, thanks for joining me again, man. I do appreciate it as always. If you're not following him on Twitter, he's at Zak Baris.
Thanks for having me on the show, Brian.
Absolutely, man. And sure thing. And hopefully we can continue a winning streak, and we can check back in a week or so and have even more great stuff to talk about. That sounds pretty good to me.
Sounds like a plan.
All right, Zach, you have a great evening. Thanks again for your time, buddy. You take care.
You too. Take care. See you, Brad.
Peace. All right, there he goes, everybody. Zak Baris. If you have any final questions, go ahead and type them below. Hello to everybody who's popping in and out. I try to follow what's going on this Facebook Live, but I get like this scatter shot. I only got a few comments that I was able to talk about. And then it's weird. When I post it, then I get all the other comments after the fact. So who knows? But anyway, if you're watching on this camera, it's a private group, Facebook. Do a search for The Unhappy Hour Sports Show, a support group. And if you're watching on this camera, it's on YouTube, youtube.com/TheNewAmericanMedia. Click subscribe, leave your comments. So special thanks to Zak Baris. Kudos to LeBron James and Team LeBron. And signing out from the TNAM Network, my name's Brian Engelman. We'll talk with you again soon. Take care. Peace.